everyone. I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. Through my practice of giving and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you. So we straight away go to the text. So the next line, the text says that with faith and effort, you should practice in accordance with the instruction of the Sublime Teacher. With faith and effort, two things. You should practice in accordance with the instruction of the Sublime Teacher. So that means in the case of a practitioner, once you have entered the path of the Dharma, then you need to practice in accordance with the Dharma. For example, in the case of monks and nuns, having entered the path of Dharma, you need to practice. If you don't practice, instead, if you just take all the offerings and just waste life and live a life which is not in accordance with Dharma, and if you live a life almost like the lay people and get entrapped in the cycle of existence or samsara, and then this is a disgrace to yourself as a practitioner and also disgrace to your monastery, right? And the result will be suffering and not happiness. So therefore, the Buddha himself in one of the sutras says that for some, morality is happiness. For others, morality is suffering. Meaning that you get vows and make pledges and then don't practice, then that is suffering. It leads to suffering. If you take vows, observe morality, and practice in accordance with the teaching, that leads to happiness, including the happiness of actualization of nirvana or liberation. Now, whether you're able to cultivate that wish to do the Dharma practice or not is very much dependent upon how strong is your faith. Again, the Buddha says that for those people who don't have the faith, it is impossible to develop any virtuous practices, qualities. Just like from a burnt seed, we cannot expect it to produce green shoots, right? So faith is really like precursor to all virtuous practices, like a mother, that has to go first before she produces children, right? Now with faith, there are many types. I'm not going to explain in detail, but in accordance with the Mahayana teaching, the faith that we are talking about is not blind faith, but faith based on reason. Faith based on analysis, questioning. If you look carefully, majority of the followers of the world's various religious traditions, you will find most of the people are following it blindly. This is true among the Buddhist followers, many of the Buddhist followers also. They say, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, which means I take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I have no idea who is Buddha, who is Dharma, who is Sangha, why one should take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. No idea what is your problem, what is your suffering, right? So therefore, without knowledge, without understanding the reason, why should you take refuge? Why should you become a Buddhist? Why should you develop faith and so forth? Without proper understanding, if you blindly follow something, then your practice will not be stable, not be reliable. Sometimes you might get excited and do some so-called practices, but most of the time you will go in the ordinary worldly way. So one must develop faith based on reason, based on knowledge. That is the process of a follower with sharp intelligence. A person with blunt intelligence, a person who is not so clever, he or she will follow the teaching based on just unquestioning devotion, right? So if you follow something without knowledge why you are doing, not only religious practices, but anything that you do in your life, if you just go around because everybody is doing the same thing, it will not be able to help you much. And instead, that will become a cause to make people fanatics and fundamentalists. There are so many fanatics and fundamentalists today in the world who are ready to do everything in the name of religion. So interesting, so lovable also. But if you really ask them why you are doing this, for example, in the case of believer in God, who is God? Why it is important? Why you are following that God or that Buddha, things like that. People have no idea. They do that because majority of the people are doing that. That's why majority of us go to hell, not to heaven. Because we, without thinking, we do what others are doing, you see. So majority, they don't think, that they don't practice, so they'll go to the hell. Maybe if you think hell is too strong word for me, then most of the people will go in the wrong direction. We have a Tibetan saying, very interesting Tibetan saying, which says, the so-called hell may not be so terrible because even the high, priests and lamas, after they die, even when they move towards heaven, they don't move towards heaven quickly. They take one step and look back towards hell. So reluctantly they move up, right? So therefore the so-called heaven may be not so good because even the lamas, they are not moving towards that place willingly and quickly. And then the so-called hell may not be so terrible because everybody is rushing towards it, right? So that is true. Most of us don't think. So even the so-called democracy, that is the reason that even that so-called democracy, which in terms of concept, it is very good thing, but the so-called democracy becomes a mobocracy. Government of the cattle, by the cattle, for the cattle, as they say in politics, not government by the people, for the people, of the people. And because of this unquestioning attitude of people accepting everything, then the so-called dictators, they get easy opportunity to control you and lead you like a flock of sheep, right? So therefore, especially in Buddhism, you must question even the teaching of the Buddha. If you question, if you ask, then you'll get answer. So therefore, in the beginning, your mind should be unbiased to anything. It should be unbiased. With an unbiased approach, ask question related to your experience, compare it to what is happening in the world, and then see whether it sounds to be the right one or the wrong one, right? So that is really, really important. Otherwise, so many of us just blindly follow some people, follow some particular religion. In politics also, you see, some people don't hesitate to follow somebody if they are going to get some personal advantage, some political mileage, then don't hesitate to go and follow that person, even if that person is leading you to the wrong direction. So this is how country go to hell. This is how a country, never makes progress. Despite enough material resources, despite the presence of good human intelligence, still the country is not making much progress. If you look at any country, you see, year in and year out, for example, during the monsoon, if you go to some big cities, I'm not referring to any particular city, but go to any big, especially in those countries where the administration are not good, people are not working hard, people who are responsible, they're not doing their responsibility. And you can see that year in and year out, during rainy season, they'll find all the roads flooding because nobody is genuinely and sincerely taking the responsibility to make proper drainage. Things like it's something that can easily be solved, but it's happening every year. Then pollution every year during particular period of the time, every year pollution. Then they'll talk, this is his problem, her problem, that problem, that problem. Nobody is really honestly trying to sit together and trying to solve it, you see. And more importantly, we don't, really work hard to educate people. So therefore, people think the country in which one is living is a dumping ground. Shame on us, really. So that's the problem. We don't have to, no need to talk big. Forget about nirvana, liberation, enlightenment, these big things, Bring some kind of peace and happiness right now through your own change of attitude, through your own change of action, you see. And that's not happening because we are so selfish, so egoistic. Hardly anybody takes, forget about global responsibility. They don't even take the responsibility of the nation or even the state or even that small society. So everybody suffers, right? So therefore, we should cultivate that faith towards the right direction, faith towards compassion, faith towards love, faith towards good teachers, right? Based on reason, right? So therefore, in order to really develop a genuine wish to practice Dharma, you need to have faith, unshakable faith. Unshakable faith is faith that is based on reason and knowledge. If you develop a faith and trust because of sound knowledge, sound reason, then even if you meet people who will say the other way around, you will not give up that road, that path. And that is not fanaticism. That is based on reason. That is based on knowledge. You clearly know this is important. So that is the way you make progress on your spiritual path. And if you don't have that, you cannot make progress. Now, based on that faith, then to actually cultivate inner qualities, you should regularly, continuously be making effort. Faith alone is not enough. Faith is a foundation that helps you develop that. It's almost like preparing the ground, right? So having prepared the ground for cultivating spiritual practices, you need to now make effort to ensure that these good inner qualities are cultivated, right? So effort is important. Now, effort is not simply working hard. In the Buddhist practice, when we say effort, that means developing delight in virtuous practices. Happiness in doing virtuous practices, that must be there. Just like a player of a football who shows great delight in being able to kick that ball. So similarly, we should be looking forward to get an opportunity to read spiritual books, to meditate, to listen to, good teacher, things like that. There should be happiness. There should be this welcoming attitude with understanding that I'm really lucky I'm able to do this practice. There should be joy. If you don't have that joy, doesn't matter. Your teacher pushes you many times, do this, do that, but you will be like a tired donkey taken uphill, with heavily loaded. That's why the great teachers, they say when it comes to doing good practice, we are like a heavily loaded donkey taken uphill. We take one step and then look back. very reluctant to move forward. When it comes to doing stupid, destructive, negative things, you are like a big boulder thrown down the steep slope of a mountain. It just goes down quickly without any effort. And in fact, the reason we need to meditate is, meditate, as I said earlier, meditate means to make your mind habituated with virtuous practices, positive qualities, right? Because we are, as Tsongkhapa says in his Lamrim Chemo, Great Stages of the Path, that we are controlled by our mind. We are controlled by our mind. That's for sure. And our mind is predominantly controlled by negative emotions. Predominantly controlled by negative emotions. Anger, jealousy, hatred, the so-called survival tactics, which we inherited from animals long time back. So we behave like animals. We still have those traces, right? So oneself is controlled by mind, and one's mind is predominantly controlled by, even if I don't say completely, I can say that it is predominantly controlled by negative emotions. Therefore, we are suffering. Therefore, we are having problem. So therefore, now you need to make your mind habituated with virtuous qualities. That's called meditation. Meditation is not just sitting in a corner, closing your eye, sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then say, wow, the meditation is so good. Many people are doing this, unfortunately, these days. Either they never met a good teacher, or they themselves didn't read a good book, so they're just following somebody. So meditation, now the so-called meditation has become a passion. Everybody's talking about meditation, mindfulness, heedfulness, but nobody actually, I should not say nobody, but not many people have a clear idea of that, right? So meditations are now done in 5-star hotels. It has also become a part of making money, right? And then especially in very busy countries, people work the whole day. I should not say like a donkey, but they work very hard. And then at the end of the day, after they finish their work, they go to some Dharma center nearby and join that so-called meditation. And because they have been working the whole day, they're damn tired, So as soon as they sit there, they will doze off. They'll fall asleep. And that gives them some rest. And then after they wake up, open their eye, then they say, wow, the meditation is so good. You didn't do any meditation. You were just resting there. I'm not jealous that you are resting, but I'm simply warning you. That is not meditation. That's not meditation. That is just resting. It's good. You're at least got some rest. I'm not jealous. That's good. But that's not meditation. Meditation primarily, as I said, means to make your mind habituated with virtuous practices. If you're not compassionate, become compassionate. If you have less loving kindness, strengthen loving kindness, strengthen bodhicitta. If you have very strong anger, reduce jealousy, reduce attachment. If you do that, then whether you go to the temple, not to go to the temple, whether you observe any formal posture in the name of meditation, things like whether you do that or not, doesn't really matter. You caught the heart of the Dharma practice. You are doing it because the purpose of all this going around the temple, circumambulation, talking, whatever you're doing, at the end of the day, the purpose is to fight with these unruly negative emotions, which is our enemy number one. It is these negative emotions which is making your life miserable. It is these negative emotions which is making countries fight each other, kill each other, leaders, start hating each other. All this is all because of anger, jealousy, hatred, not because of love and compassion. Right? Even in a small family, the constant disagreement, not being nice to each other, speaking harshly. All this is because of egoism, narrow-mindedness, anger, jealousy, hatred. You see? So if you are able to do away or at least reduce these internal negative emotions, you will be able to deal nicely with your family members. You will be able to bring peace and happiness in that family. You will be able to bring peace and happiness in that environment. even in that city, there will be a ripple effect. That is called dharma. Dharma means, as I said, transforming the mind. If you don't transform your mind, then you go higher into the mountain and then call yourself a person doing the retreat. And you can stay there, hibernate there like marmots. You know, the animal marmot, they go higher into the mountain and they hide themselves under the ground. Sometimes they sleep almost six months. But they are not meditating. You can't call them meditating. So simply isolating yourself is not meditation. Physically, you may be high in the mountain, but mentally you may be thinking about the town and the city, what is going down there. It's not meditation, right? So your dharma practice or meditation, or whatever you call it, the target is to explore within yourself which of the negative emotions. You have many, we have many, but out of this many, you may not be able to fight with all the negative emotions, but recognize at least one or two negative emotions which has a predominant presence in you, which has been disturbing your inner tranquility, which has been disturbing, peace in the family and so forth. Reduce that. The moment you change a little bit, you will find others also changing. I mean, the paradox is people are talking about bringing world peace. The person himself or herself who talk about world peace, harmony, and so forth, it hardly occurs to them that first they should change. Right? The word individual means indivisible part of the world, the bigger world. Because it is an indivisible part, therefore the English word individual means indivisible from the bigger whole. So this indivisible parts of the bigger whole, if the parts don't change, how can the whole change? Impossible. And some people, because they don't want to, change, so they say, oh, the world is too bad now. I'm just a small cog in the wheel, So even if I make some effort, it is useless. That is very, very pessimistic. Yes, it is true. It's very difficult to change the whole world. That doesn't mean that you can't bring happiness at least to your vicinity. Take the example, forget about us individual people. Take the example of Buddha, who is source of so much inspiration. Even today, there are over 500 million people following Buddha. But even during his time, he could not change everybody. He could not bring complete peace in the world. Jesus could not bring complete peace in the world at his own time. But that does not mean that they did not, bring any benefit. Today, at least the world is functioning still, although there are a lot of problems, because of the kindness of some of these great teachers. Because there are a good number of people following the good path. So therefore, at least still there is some, portion of sanity in the world. Right? So in your case also, if you are able to bring happiness and smile on the face of one or two people, that's good. That's really good. So as I repeatedly said, think globally, act locally. It's wonderful to think big, but the practice has to be done on the individual cases. First, you should become peaceful. Then try to bring some kind of tranquility, friendship, things like that within your family, within your circle of friends and things. So in order to achieve that inner tranquility, you need to have, first of all, faith towards what you're doing, the good thing that you're doing, the faith towards law of causality, faith towards Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and then make effort. So therefore, these two, you need to follow the words of Sublime Master with faith and effort. That's very, very important. So these two are the faith and effort. These are inevitable. These are extremely essential as a contributing factor on your path to virtuous practice. right? So having entered the Dharma, you have to have a teacher, a Lama, a guide. As I mentioned earlier, we are talking about cultivating inner qualities where we don't have much knowledge, where we don't have much experience. So naturally, you need to seek the support and guidance of somebody, Lama or teacher, whatever you want to call it, right? As your teacher. And then it's not enough to have somebody as your teacher, but the important thing is you need to follow their instruction. If something is not clear, caution, ask questions, right? So it is in this way that you can gradually hope to achieve liberation. But unfortunately, these days, as I mentioned earlier, a Lama who is a real Lama in accordance with the name is not so easy to find. There are Lamas who just want to do business. There are Lamas who just want to become another ruler because they have some, people following them, so they become arrogant and then forget about what they're doing in terms of Dharma practice. So they will either participate in politics or become a ruler or become a good speaker, right? Throwing the Dharma practice into the wind. So therefore, the Lama that you should seek should be somebody who lives in accordance with the monastic discipline, who practices what he preaches. And what he preaches, when we say that you should practice what the Lama says, what would the Lama teach? The Lama would simply teach, okay, you should think about Dharma, you should contemplate about Dharma, you should listen to Dharma, you should practice Dharma, you should meditate Dharma. That's all what the teacher is going to say. So according to that instruction, you need to engage in this threefold practice of listening, contemplation, and meditation. So if you do that, then you have not made a mistake in your fundamental planning. Okay? So therefore, as we briefly discussed, in order to genuinely and sincerely follow the teacher or Lama, you should first be able to select a good Dharma teacher, a good Lama. As I mentioned earlier, if you simply want to listen to somebody's talk, it's okay. You don't have to accept that as your guru or Lama. But if you really want to commit yourself to somebody and want that somebody as your guru or teacher, then before you do that, you should examine that person. A qualified teacher has to have many qualities. And during this Kali Yuga, time of degeneration, it is not easy to find a Lama who is fully qualified, but he should at least be somebody who has compassion. If that teacher has compassion, he will never cheat you, deceive you, or exploit other people. Then on top of that, of course, he should have great learning, knowledge, otherwise he can't teach. And then he should be ready to help you, make some effort to help you or help other sentient beings. So these are some of the minimum qualities needed. So you should try to find that out. So there's what is said in the next third line. You need to decide on your master's unerring oral instructions by understanding your shortcomings and virtues, understanding your... I don't agree with this translation. So the third line is basically saying, by clearly understanding the qualities and the faults of the Lama, you should not make a mistake in choosing the right Lama. Not your faults or your qualities. He's talking about the faults and qualities of the Lama. You should know what are the qualities of the Lama, what are the shortcomings of the Lama. So in that way, analyze and then choose a Lama, choose a teacher, a correct teacher. That's the meaning. Okay. So it should not be like a pack of dogs. In the case of pack of dogs, if one dog gets up and start barking, everybody just gets up and start barking. It should not be like that. because some people say this Lama is great. Some people are following, then you should also follow. No. Take time. Judge it. Even when you marry, you need to find a little bit about your your future wife or your future husband. You cannot just marry like that. Whether it's arranged marriage or love marriage, whatever it is, you need to find a little bit. If you just look at the face of that person, oh, she is beautiful, oh, he is handsome, and then if you marry without actually knowing about the background of that person, then very soon the next step will be divorce or fighting. Everybody knows that. Marriage is not for many lives to come. It's just for this life. Although, of course, if some couple they are living very harmoniously, then it's janam janam ka saath. That's what we say. That is more or less a fantasy, because the marriage itself is a result of attachment. So how can that attachment help you? But when we make this spiritual bond with the great teacher, that is really bond for many lives to come, right? Or at least in your case, you're seeking that person to get guidance, teaching from that person, so that you are able to, flourish and move from peace to peace for many lives to come. Your marriage is not for peace for many lives to come. It's just for this life. And one of the Tibetan teachers says that even when you, say buy a horse or a cow, you need to examine carefully before paying. Open the mouth of that horse or cow and count the teeth and things like that. That's what they do. How old it is and things like that. Then only you pay the money. Now these days, when we seek a guru, you don't just, properly analyze that, even to the extent of buying a cow. So how are you going to get a good teacher if you just rush like ordinary, blind love, rush, not like that. So therefore, it is very important. The other day, I already spoke about the 4 reliances. Rely more on the teaching of that person than on the fame and name of that person. Okay. So one should personally examine, and you can also ask other people about that teacher. Ask those people who have knowledge about that person. Okay. And then also see how many good students are produced by that teacher. Right? So in this way, you will be able to know whether the Lama is good one or bad one. Because the Lama's influence will be there with his students also. If the Lama is good, his good influences will be there. The Lama is not so good or bad, similar influences will be there also. But sometimes it is possible that you do not have enough time to examine that teacher because of your past life karmic force and prayers. Suddenly you meet somebody. That is also possible. Marriage also something like that is possible, right? इसको मिल गया, शादी कर लिया, बोलते हैं ना उसी तरह. It's possible to meet somebody, who you almost like love at first sight. You see that Lama develop great veneration and respect. Many people do that with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Then you accept him as your teacher. That is also sometimes possible. But if that happens, then once you relate to that person, and then when you start listening to the teaching, contemplating on the teaching, meditating on the teaching, then you should see whether the Lama himself or herself is doing it in accordance with the text, the teaching, right? As the Bodhisattva Thongme Sangpo says that when you associate with somebody, your teacher or spiritual friend, when you associate with that person, then because of your association with that person, if your qualities increase like a waxing moon and your faults decrease, that means you found a good teacher. Contrarily, through your association with somebody, if your negative emotions are increasing, multiplying, and your good qualities are decreasing, that means you are in company with a wrong teacher, wrong friend. So you need to be very careful because we are ordinary people, so your friend, your ordinary friend, your spiritual friend, your spiritual teacher, whatever you name them, you need to be very careful with what kind of person you are associating and making relationship. Okay. And you have therefore complete independence, what kind of teacher you want. So therefore, when you have this independence, so you should know to use this independence. When you have the capacity to choose, you should choose, right? The right one. But then, of course, sometimes because of your past life karma, for some people, wherever they go, they met good teacher. For some others, wherever they go, they meet wrong teachers, they meet wrong friends. So that is also possible. But at least, you have the choice. So choose it carefully. Okay, be very sensible and very logical, because Buddhism is quite famous, and therefore the Buddhist monks or Tibetan lamas who are associated with that, they're also, and then especially because of His Holiness and other great teachers, the monks are also treated as something very special, very important, right? So because of this, there is a possibility that you might blindly take every monk as something educated, as something kind, as something compassionate. That is not true. We have to accept the fact. The monks are also ordinary human beings. They've only changed the cloth. And that cloth, red cloth, you can buy from the market. Okay? Anybody can wear it. Anybody can shave the head. So whether the mind has been transformed or not, that is the question, So not many people are able to do that. So therefore, because of not being able to transform the mind, they also attempted with the worldly sensual pleasures. So they also act like ordinary layperson. That's understandable. That's understandable. So instead of just criticizing the monks or nuns, you use your own capacity to choose the right one and on not to follow the wrong one. So that will also help, develop more regard to the monks and nuns who have good quality, good practice, and not the vagrants, right? So therefore, choosing the Lama is extremely important. And then also, you should also pray that in the future, may I meet authentic, reliable Lamas in the future also, in this life also. That kind of prayer also is important, right? So sometimes when you genuinely pray somebody like His Holiness Dalai Lama, he might appear in your dream also. I'm not making, making a mythological statement. It happens. It's your mind, If you really long for something, it comes. So therefore, if you have faith, make that effort, then there is not much distance with the Lama, right? Now, if you if you don't have the faith, don't make the effort, then even if you live with the Lama, recall that incidence of the bhikshu called Lhakdor Karma, who was a kind of attendant to the Buddha. And at the end, he said, I spent 25 years serving you, and I did not see one iota of good quality in you. It happens because you see what you want to see. So the problem is not there in the Buddha. Problem is your selection, your negative karma.